Ed, thank you very much. People who know Ed know he's a very persuasive person. Ed called me up and he said, Governor, I know that you're kind of well known for supporting the Constitution. And I just want some confirmation that you believe in the First Amendment to the Constitution. I said, well, of course. He says, so does that mean that you believe in free speech? I said, absolutely. He said, great. I need you to come give one. And hence, I'm in New York because of Ed Cox. Contrary to what some people said, this is not an economic development trip where I'm taking applications tonight of people who want to move to the great state of Texas. Instead, I'm here for a completely different purpose, and that's a reaffirmation of what Ed Cox was talking about moments ago. An affirmation of the reason why the leaders of the New York Republican Party who gather with us tonight, you are going to restore common sense to politics in the state of New York. Along those lines, I too want to thank Congresswoman Elise Stefanik for everything that you're doing. She's a fabulous job. Ladies and gentlemen, who I saw earlier, listen, man, coming so close last time. When you could have had a Republican governor once again in Albany, New York. I want to thank RNC Chairman Michael Watley for stepping up, doing your part, joining us all in our effort upon which we will succeed to fire Joe Biden as President of the United States of America. But let me circle back. I know that Republicans are not in leadership positions and control the levers of power in New York State at this moment in time. However, I know full well from the experience that we have in Texas, the possibility of what can and should be coming your way. What a lot of people are unaware of is that in Texas we had more than 100 years of only Democrat leadership in our state. Meaning every statewide position, almost every legislative position in the entire state was Democrat for more than 100 years. It's only in recent years that Republicans finally won leadership positions in Texas, and it's because we applied good old-fashioned common sense to run campaigns, to win elections, and then to deliver on our promise of what we would do for the state. And it in turn led to, for the past 25 years, only Republicans elected to statewide offices in the state of Texas. You can do it here. There's no reason why New York should not also have a governor who believes not only in legal immigration, but also stands against illegal immigration into the United States of America. You can have a mayor who stands for your law enforcement officers and does not allow on the streets criminals who are repeat criminals who go out and kill law enforcement officers like Officer Dillon. You can have elected officials who cut taxes, cut through red tape regulations, and restore the luster of the economy of New York and turn New York into the land of opportunity that Texas is right now. It's that land of opportunity that gave me the ability to be what I am now. Some people asked me earlier tonight, said they had no idea that I was in a wheelchair. You may see me on the news or whatever, and not see me rolling around in a wheelchair. What happened is I was 26 years old, I had just graduated from law school, and I was studying for the bar exam and took a break and did something I did every single day. I went out for a jog. And while I was out jogging on this particular day, a huge oak tree, far taller than the ceiling in this room, crashed down under my back, fractured my vertebrae and my spinal cord, leaving me immediately paralyzed and never able to walk again. I know I can see you shaking your heads wondering, man, how slow was that guy jogging to get hit by a falling tree? But listen, in Texas, we don't lay around in a hospital bed. We get up, we get back to work, and we get going. And because I live in Texas is so much the land of opportunity that even a young man whose life is literally broken in half can rise up and be governor of our great state. And I've used my position as governor of Texas to cement that opportunity for generations to come. We've ensured that we are passing property tax cuts. In fact, in Texas, as it concerns income taxes, we disdain income taxes so much, not only do we not have an income tax, we passed a constitutional amendment banning an income tax. Think about the math of that. That means it would require 2/3 vote of the population of Texas to have an income tax. That means not in the lifetime of anybody in this room is there going to be an income tax in the state of Texas. We've also cut through regulations. And I could give you a lot of legislative details. Let me just give you one example. In April of 2020, Elon Musk came to me and said that he needed to build a factory more than a mile long and have all the intricacies of a gigafactory in there. And he needed not only to have it completed, but have vehicles rolling off of it in only 18 months. Has anybody here ever built a house and know how long it takes? To imagine building a gigafactory in 18 months is astonishing, but I told Elon, we can get that done in Texas. That began in June of 2020. 18 months later, in December of 2021, Elon Musk was rolling vehicles off that newly built factory floor, and before he bought Twitter, he posted on Twitter that in 18 months, he was able to build a gigafactory larger than the Pentagon in Texas, whereas in California, it would not even be completed with the permitting process. In Texas, we move at the speed of business. Something else we believe in Texas. We believe in the rule of law. In Texas, there are some cities that like to maybe try to go down the pathway of California, I will use as an example. There's Austin, Texas, that sometimes tries to emulate San Francisco. And some other cities that are the big cities that at times they either talked about or even tried to defund their police. We have none of that in Texas. I signed a law that will defund any city that defunds their police. In Texas, we support our police officers. We back the blue, period, in the Lone Star State. But despite all these things, it leads to, maybe because of all these things, it leads to remarkable results. Texas is #1 in America for the most new jobs. #1 for the fastest growing economy of any large state. #1 in a category that New York used to regularly rank #1 in, and that is Texas ranks #1 for home to more Fortune 500 company headquarters than any other state. And as Ed pointed out, Texas has the 8th largest economy. Let me explain that differently. There are only 7 countries in the world that have an economy larger than Texas. United States, obviously, China, India, and Japan, the United Kingdom, Germany, and France. The way the economies are growing, sometime over the course of the next year, Texas will surpass France to have the 7th largest economy in the entire world. We will celebrate in typical Texas fashion with a big backyard French fry contest. But listen, we have challenges in Texas. Texas is ground zero for the broken border policy imposed by Joe Biden. You know the chaos that we've seen across the entire country. And it seems like it's been going on so long that we can so easily forget that it was just 4 years ago that we had the lowest illegal border crossings in 45 years. And that's because President Trump put into place 4 simple policies. Remain in Mexico, Title 42, eliminate catch and release, and build a border wall. That's what you need to secure the border. Joe Biden comes into office and he issues executive orders that eliminate all of those policies put in place by Donald Trump. It literally opens the border up to the entire world. And we are getting people from more than 150 different countries across the globe. More than 9 million people have come in illegally just under Joe Biden. To put that in context, the equivalent of the entirety of the population of New York City has come across the border illegally just in the past 3 years. We don't have the ability to simulate that, but it gets worse. The identity of these people, the background of these people is unknown to so many people. We do know that all-time records have been set with regard to the number of people on the terrorist watch lists who have been apprehended. And know this fact, if you're on the terrorist watch list, you pay extra not to be apprehended. What none of us know right now is how many terrorists on the watch list evaded detection and are working their way across the United States. It's extraordinarily dangerous, so much so that last month the FBI director said there is the possibility of a terrorist attack taking place in America because of the southern border. It's because of reasons like this, and because Joe Biden is not following the law. Let me tell you about that. You remember when Joe Biden told you, like a month ago, he needed Congress to pass a law for him to be able to enforce border security? Either A, he was lying to you, B, he had no idea what he was talking about, or C, all of the above. It's all of the above. I want you to know this so you can tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, whoever asks you about the border. There are 3 laws that were in place before Joe Biden ever took office that exist till today that give him all the power that he needs. 1, the executive branch has not the authority, the requirement, the mandate by Congress to deny illegal entry into the United States. Biden is not doing that. He's aiding and abetting the illegal entry into the United States. Law number 2, Congress mandates that the president detain anybody who crosses the border illegally. He's not doing that. He's setting everybody free to go across the entire country. 3, there are laws in place passed by Congress that require the president to build border walls and border barriers and other obstructions that hinder illegal entry. He's not doing that. The only thing he's doing about that, he's trying to tear down the barriers that Texas has put up to try to deny illegal entry. Because of this, that's exactly why Texas, when the order came out, said that Joe Biden could order his Border Patrol to cut the razor wire that Texas installed. That's when I said that I am declaring the authority under Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. Texas has the constitutional right to self-defense, and we are going to defend our state and our country from an invasion. have we done? What we've done is Texas is the only state in the history of the United States of America to build our own border wall. It's not a new wall. We didn't reinvent the wheel here. It's the exact same wall that President Trump put up, with this being the only difference. When you look at the miles of that border wall that we've already put up, and the miles currently under construction, Texas is building more border wall in Texas than Trump built in Texas. 2, do you remember those big orange buoys that we put in the river? Some of you do. These buoys are massive in size, and they were designed by the Border Patrol to deny illegal crossing across the Rio Grande River, which is hundreds of miles long. Biden would not use them, but Texas did. We put them into the Rio Grande River, and what do you think Joe Biden did when we did that? He filed a lawsuit to put a stop to it. Well, that lawsuit is tied up in federal courts. But as we gather for dinner tonight in New York City, those buoys remain in the Rio Grande River. Next, there's a big island in the river, halfway between Mexico and Texas. Look at the size of this room and imagine 5 or 10 times the size of this room, and that's the size of the island. And that island was filled with cane and brush and trees and shrubs packed far more closely together than everybody at this dinner tonight. And it was taken over by the drug cartels from Mexico, even though it's owned by Texas. The cartels had taken it over, and they used it as a kind of a way station. They would get halfway over with the people they were smuggling and the drugs they were smuggling, and then it was clear they would move people to the Texas side. I told the National Guard in the state of Texas, I want you to go seize that island and restore it for the state of Texas. They captured the island, they got it back, and returned to the great state of Texas. But more than that, we wanted to make sure that it would never be used again, either by the cartels or by other smugglers. And so what the National Guard did, they built a land bridge to the island, and then they got bulldozers onto the island, and they bulldozed down every single piece of brush or cane on that island so that it was as clear and as flat as the stage I'm on right now, with only one thing left standing, and that is the flag of the great state of Texas. It's these same National Guard that have been building this razor wire that you've seen go up around the border. It's started over in the Brownsville area, going over the Eagle Pass area and all the way over to El Paso. Hundreds of miles of the razor wire that denies illegal entry into the United States. Extraordinarily effective at achieving that goal. And this is the wire that Joe Biden was trying to order his Border Patrol agents to cut through. And when that order came, I told the National Guard, I don't want you to double down on the amount of wire we have on the border. I said, I want you to triple or quadruple the amount of razor wire on our border to make sure that no one is going to be able to get in there. The place that was number one for illegal crossings was the Eagle Pass. Eagle Pass is about halfway along the border. There would be 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people crossing a day. There was a park there, Shelby Park, 50 acres in size, that was used by the Biden administration for illegal purposes. Remember what I told you the law was? The law is if they come here illegally, the president must detain them. The president was using that park to process people and to set them free across the country. I told the National Guard, do not let the Biden administration ever use that 50-acre plot of land again for illegal purposes. I want you to wire it shut. When the sun came up the next morning, that park was completely wired shut. Over the past month, there's not been thousands of people crossing the border there, not hundreds of people crossing the border, not even dozens of people crossing the border. There's been an average of exactly 3 people crossing a day, and they were arrested by the Texas Department of Public Safety. But as you know, there's been another component to what we're doing on the border. And that is when you look at small little communities on the border, like Eagle Pass, or like Del Rio, or so many others, they have a population of like 20,000 people or so. And what the Biden administration was doing, they were taking hundreds, if not more than that, of people who have been apprehended and dropping them off in these small little communities. And I was meeting with a group of mayors and county officials and police chiefs and sheriffs and talking about this challenge they were dealing with. And they would ask me, what could I do? And I said, well, let me start a busing program where I'm going to be able to move them to a different location. And know this, because this is a part of the story that a lot of people forget. And that is, when we began the busing operation, it was going to one location. It was there on purpose. Because remember, up to this time, neither Joe Biden nor the border czar had actually been to the border to see the chaos they had caused. And so my thought process was, if they're not going to come to the border, we're going to take the border to them. And we started busing illegal migrants to the sanctuary city of Washington, D.C. I thought Kamala Harris, the border czar, needed to see this firsthand. So we actually delivered them directly to the residence of the Vice President of the United States of America. But here's the point that gets lost. We were sending them only to Washington, D.C. And quite literally out of nowhere, Mayor Adams starts criticizing me for sending them to New York City. We made clear by contacting his office and said, we're not sending them to New York. We issued press releases to the press saying, we're not sending migrants to New York. We said, that's Joe Biden sending them to New York. But the criticism kept coming despite our denial. So after a while I figured, gosh, if I'm going to get the criticism, I'm going to get the credit. And thus began the busing of illegal immigrants to the sanctuary city of New York City. And I got to tell you, the complaining by Mayor Adams is nothing short than stunning. What he has is a tiny fraction of what Texas gets every single day. And what he's dealing with is what America is dealing with, and that is the fault of Joe Biden by allowing open border policies in the first place and by sanctuary cities existing in the second place. And so we are going to have to maintain this process until we get a new president this next November who will secure the border for the United States of America. But to circle back to where I began, we all have these challenges, whether they be the consequences of an open border policy, challenges of regulatory mandates, taxes, unsafe communities, the imperative of community safety and law enforcement. All of these things are within the grasp of the Republican Party of New York. We know what your heart is and where your policies lie, what you can do in the future. We know that chaos is being sowed by the governance of New York as a state and as a city. That's repelling people. I hear it every day from people moving to Texas from New York. I'm saying that sanity can be restored in New York with Republicans regaining control of leadership positions in this state and in this city. And that process begins with the men and women in this room. Your involvement is essential in order to turn this around. Essential not just to win elections, but essential to restore that common sense, to restore the luster of the Empire State, which is absolutely attainable. So as governor of Texas, just know you have a friend on your side who will stand shoulder to shoulder with you on your pathway and your journey for the Republicans to regain control of the great state of New York. Thank you all. God bless you all. And God bless the United States of America.